Hello everyone, and welcome to today's story. In this episode, James receives news he can hardly believe. The woman he's prayed for all this time is still alive. But the biggest surprise of all, the person who once saved and cared for her is none other than Officer Lee. All this time, while James searched in despair, Lee had been the one by her side. But why? Did Lee meet her and never tell James? And now, where is Diep? What awaits them on the road ahead? Join us in today's episode, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support will help us reach 1,000 subscribers and bring you even more unforgettable stories. The faint glow of a bedside lamp stretched James's shadow long across the pale wall beside his mother's bed. The room was silent. Only the slow whir of the ceiling fan and the shallow breaths of the frail woman lying motionless could be heard. After days of waiting and worrying about Diep, James's mother had finally fallen ill, worn down by hope and heartbreak. In the small, dim room, the doctor's footsteps sounded soft against the floor, blending with the mother's labored breathing. James stood quietly by her side, his anxious eyes following her every fragile movement. His hand tightened unconsciously, as if trying to hold on to something precious that was slipping away. After checking her pulse, the doctor lowered his stethoscope. His calm voice carried a quiet gravity. Her condition isn't critical, but she's under severe stress. If it continues, it could become dangerous. She needs rest and no more emotional strain. James sank down beside the bed, gently clasping his mother's hand. The same hand that had once guided him through every hardship, now pale, dry, and cold from exhaustion. Every faint breath she took blurred his vision even more. He bowed his head, his voice breaking into a whisper, part confession, part promise. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'll find her. I'll bring Diep back to you." A sliver of light from the hallway brushed across his cheek, catching on the silent tears rolling down. In James's eyes, guilt and love swirled together, a quiet storm he could no longer contain. The air in the room seemed to freeze. The night's chill crept into every breath, every trembling hand. Still, James didn't move, as if letting go, even for a moment, might make his mother and everything he loved disappear. The wind from the fields carried with it the scent of damp soil and lingering rain from the morning shower. Officer Lee stepped out of his car, his gaze unintentionally catching on a telephone pole by the roadside, where a crumpled flyer fluttered restlessly in the wind. He walked closer. On the paper was the face of a young woman, her gentle smile, her clear eyes gazing somewhere far away. Beneath the photo, a hurried line of text read, "Missing person. Please contact." For a moment, Lee's breath caught in his chest. He recognized her, the girl he had once carried from the edge of the forest, her body limp in the pouring rain. A gust of wind swept by, the flyer wrapping lightly around his hand, as if fate itself were reaching out to guide him. Lee gripped the paper tightly, his expression shifting from shock to quiet contemplation. He pulled out his phone and dialed the number. The screen lit up. One name appeared. James. Lee's heart tightened. In that instant, every piece fell into place. The missing woman, the name Diep, and James, the man who had begged him for help all those days ago. He looked up at the fading horizon, the road ahead blurring in the amber haze of dusk. The last light of day glimmered across his face, half in shadow, half in glow. Just like the truth, now beginning to emerge from the fog of mystery. Lee arranged to meet James immediately, unaware that this encounter would change everything for both men, who had been walking the same path without knowing it. The small roadside cafe still held its usual quiet calm. Afternoon light streamed through the glass window, casting a thin golden veil across the wooden table. Lee sat in the corner, where the sunlight spilling through the window painted a shimmering band of gold across his table. Before him sat a glass of orange juice, the foam still clinging faintly to the rim. And beside it, the missing person flyer, neatly folded, resting parallel to his keychain. He gazed out toward the road. The sparse traffic drifted by, slow, heavy, unhurried. Each passing vehicle made him glance up for a moment, eyes searching, then quietly lower again. Time seemed to move differently there. The light dimmed, softening into a gentle haze that hung like mist. Amid that stillness, Lee remained seated, posture straight, fingers interlaced, his expression calm, though beneath his composed eyes lingered a quiet tension, a mix of anticipation and unease. Ever since realizing the woman he once rescued was the very same person James had been searching for, his heart had not known peace. The memory still flickered vividly, her face pale beneath the rain, her breath shallow, her body limp in his arms as he carried her through the forest storm. Outside, footsteps echoed faintly, pulling him back to the present. Lee turned his head toward the door. Through the glass, the silhouette of James appeared. Lee's gaze softened, then steadied. He drew in a long, quiet breath. He knew, this moment, this chance to return a spark of hope to that man, might be one of the most significant things he would ever do. Adjusting his collar, he watched as James approached. The last rays of sunlight spilled across his face, dividing it in two, one half illuminated, the other shadowed. His hand moved toward the folded paper, his fingertip tracing along its crease, as if preparing to unfold a secret that could change everything. James sat down across from Lee, his breathing still uneven. He glanced at the glass of orange juice before him, beads of condensation glistening under the light, then looked up at Lee. A brief silence hung between them. The quiet whir of the ceiling fan, the faint clink of a spoon against a cup at the next table. Every sound felt louder than it should. Officer Lee reached into his bag, pulled out a neatly folded piece of paper, and placed it gently on the table. As it unfolded, a soft breeze slipped through the open window, making the paper tremble slightly. On it, the face of a young woman, smiling softly, her eyes gentle and pure. James froze. The world around him seemed to fall away. His voice broke, hoarse and trembling. Where did you meet Diep?" Lee nodded and quietly recounted how he had found her, unconscious in the forest, and how she later disappeared. That alone was enough. James's eyes welled with tears. His body felt suddenly lighter, yet his heart pounded harder than ever. He picked up the photo, light filtering through the thin paper, trembling in his shaking hands. His lips parted, but no words came. Joy and sorrow surged together in his chest. Days of torment, sleepless nights, and endless searching. All of it now had meaning again, simply because she was alive. James lifted his gaze toward Lee, gratitude shining through his tear-filled eyes. No words were needed, just a nod, a faint smile, enough to say everything he couldn't. The cafe remained quiet, but within James, a new wind had begun to stir. The wind of hope, of life that had never truly died. He rose, adjusted his collar, and walked toward the door. His steps were lighter now, faster, and in the golden light of dusk, his face no longer looked burdened by sorrow. Lee watched him go, his eyes deep and still, as though witnessing a soul rediscovering faith after a long, endless night. Outside, the sun sank beyond the horizon, and somewhere within that glowing sky, a promise, unspoken but real, seemed to echo softly. Wait for me, Diep. Somewhere far away, Diep trudged along a muddy dirt path, her feet covered in soil, but her eyes still bright, burning with quiet determination. In her hands, she carried a thin tarp and a small jar filled with seeds she had gathered along the way. She stopped by a mountain stream, the gentle murmur of water echoing like the forest's whisper. Leaning down to wash her face, she inhaled the cool, crisp air, her hands trembling with exhaustion. Each sip of fresh water revived her spirit. As she watched the current flow downstream, a faint smile curved on her lips, soft, but filled with resolve. By the time the sun began to fade, Diep discovered an old, abandoned hut near the hillside. A few dry banana leaves scattered on the ground, charred firewood, a rusty knife, and a small lighter. She sat down, gathered twigs, split the wood, and struck a flame. The fire crackled to life, its smoke weaving through the thin mist. In its flickering light, Diep's face came into view, dirty, weary, but radiant with strength. She placed several cassava roots she had dug up earlier onto the glowing embers. The quiet popping sound filled the air as the sweet, smoky scent spread gently through the night breeze. Diep sat still, staring into the fire, and within its glow flickered the image of James, the man still searching for her. A tear slipped down her cheek, dissolving into the bluish smoke of dusk. Her voice trembled softly in the wind. James, wait for me. I'm almost home. Then she closed her eyes and pressed her hands together in prayer, asking God to grant her a peaceful night and the strength to continue her journey back to the man she loved. And at that very moment, somewhere miles away, James was looking up at the same starry sky, silently praying for her safety, hoping that dawn would come quickly so he could set out once more to find her. Night falls. In two different places, two hearts still reach out for each other. One, deep in the forest, quietly praying to survive another day. The other, in town, gazing at the sky, whispering her name into the wind. Though miles apart, their hearts beat in the same rhythm. Amid loss and despair, there remains a fragile thread of faith that one day they will meet again. Perhaps true love never really disappears. It only grows silent, waiting to shine again in the very moment we believe all hope is gone. If you too believe that love can guide us through the darkness, hit like, share, and subscribe to join us in waiting for the day James and Diep reunite. See you in the next episode.